We're live to our new show, Finding My Purpose. And I've got my marvellous friend, Daksha Patel, with me this afternoon. Daksha, hello, and thank you for joining us.
Well, hello, Stephen, and thank you for the invitation to come onto your show and speak to you.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. And to my audience, I have to say, if you've ever found yourself in a position where you describe yourself as being stressed, shattered, or stuck, that's really what Daksha is going to be talking to us about today. So, if you've ever found yourself in that position, then this could be very interesting for you. So, Daksha, I always start off my show with the same question for my special guest, which is, there's normally a moment in one's life where one decides that what you're doing is not what your purpose is, not what God meant for you to do, or the universe put you on this planet to do. And it's oftentimes, it can be a traumatic event, or it can be a life cycle event, or any other catalyst. So what was the catalyst moment for you, Daksha, before you started this new career so many years ago?
So it's really interesting because you talk about what was the catalyst moment. And I guess I'm not one of those individuals who just had this one moment. I think for me, there were like lots of different moments, which then kind of took me on different twists and turns in my kind of life, in my working career. And I guess and that's the reason I've ended up here. So there's been like lots of different, I would say, pivotal moments, which have then sort of shaped the next sort of path that I've taken. And I guess there's probably, if I can share with you sort of like 2 or 3 pivotal moments that really...
Please, you've got me in suspense now, Daksha, so yeah, please.
So I think the first pivotal moment was probably when I started my career in the NHS. And I was very fortunate in that even though I had been to university, when I started my working career, I was this still really shy person, had very little self-belief. And I think imposter syndrome sort of followed me through my whole NHS career. But one of the things that was really quite pivotal was I had access to mentorship. And because I was a management trainee, I had access to lots of training. And I think the pivotal moments were that something sparked inside of me where I was watching all these trainers impart wisdom and inspire and teach. And it really made me think, actually, that's what I want to do. And so that was probably some pivotal moments in my life. And then the opportunity then arose for me to actually take up a position as a leadership and management trainer. And this was a complete career change, shifting from public sector to private sector. And what I didn't realize at the time was I was really, really stressed in my role. And I was at that point in my life where I didn't want to show weakness. So I didn't want to tell anybody that I wasn't coping. And unfortunately, to cut a long story short, it culminated in me fainting at work. And so my stress, my tiredness, my exhaustion all caught up with me. And so that then was another pivotal moment. And it made me think about, what am I doing? Is this for me? What I thought was my dream job wasn't my dream job. And so then I ended up leaving that organization. I then took up another post working in the public sector in a local authority. But again, I kind of really felt deep down that it wasn't my calling at all. And so I listened to a video by a gentleman called Dr. Joe Dispenza. And you're probably familiar with that saying, like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Mm-hmm. So this was another pivotal moment. And he was talking about how most people are worried about the past. They're stuck in the past. They are sort of too busy planning the future, and they're not really in the present moment. and they're just sort of living in survival. And living in survival means that you're stressed all the time, and also, you know, you're not really taking charge of your life. So you're complaining, you're moaning, you know, you're blaming everybody else. And at first, you know, when I was listening to this person speaking, I was like, you know what, that's not me. That doesn't apply to me. But deep down, I knew that that was me. And so that was another pivotal moment in my life, because it really made me reflect on how I was living my life, because there was a lot of people pleasing going on. There was a lot of living your life for other people going on. And I wasn't really being honest with myself. And so another pivotal moment was when I finally decided to follow my heart, and I decided that I was going to start my own coaching and training business. Now, I wish I could say to the listeners it was all plain sailing from that point on, but it wasn't. Just as I decided to make that decision and start my own business, my mum's health deteriorated. And so at the same time, I became a carer. And I cared for mum for 10 years. So stressed, shattered, and stuck. That was me.
Yeah, and you know, that resonates so much with me when you said about stress. As somebody who's had type 2 diabetes, it's stress is a real catalyst for the bringing on of the condition, but also of it worsening.
Yeah.
So one has to listen when your body communicates with you like that, Daksha. One has to listen, and many times throughout the course of my diabetic condition, I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
You know, when the doctor told me I had pre-diabetes, I marched very quickly to full-blown diabetes. And so I suppose I listened to some extent. But yes, our body has lots of devices to communicate with us, and it just shouts louder and louder.
Yeah.
Until we pick up our ears and listen.
Yeah. I always say, Stephen, you know, sometimes we get these little nudges from the universe. Yeah. And it's like the universe is like, she's not listening. She's not listening. And then it's like you get this huge slap across the face.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like that analogy. It's dead right. So now you found your purpose. Tell me, what particular people is it you get most joy? Where's your passion? So what people do you serve?
Yeah. So, you know, I guess as I was saying to you, that once I decided to start my own coaching and training business, it wasn't all plain sailing. You know, you move from being an employee to then learning to be self-employed, and there's a lot to contend with. And I guess for me, how I've kind of come to where I am now, which is where I tend to work with women, ambitious women who are either self-employed, or they're working in middle management, or they have carer responsibilities. And so, you know, what I find is that, you know, there probably are thousands of women who are stressed, who are shattered, and they're stuck. And often I hear it again and again that they don't feel good enough. And so what that means is that they get busy proving themselves, or they start to play small. And that's just exhausting. And it really doesn't have to be that way.
And I guess many times that that they feel trapped by circumstances and no longer in control.
Yeah.
Of their own life.
Yeah. So, you know, your environment definitely can be a stressor, because I suppose, especially like, you know, when I was caring for my mum, you know, that was a decision that I'd made. It was a choice that we had made as a family. But it doesn't stop you from wanting to pursue your goals. It doesn't stop you from, you know, wanting to fully focus on your business. But it's about how you get that balance between, okay, so these are my responsibilities and there are many. And it's about how do you get that balance? And it's a really delicate balance. And in achieving that balance, or trying to achieve that balance, you know, you're still sort of, it feels like, you're still sort of grappling with, what your heart wants to do. You feel like you're making sacrifices. Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. You don't actually know where that road goes or when it ends. And so it always feels like you're dealing with so many unknowns. And that in itself kind of brings on a lot of stress, can bring on a lot of stress. Because as you know, when we don't have certainty, it's not a safe place to be in.
Yeah, that's right. And I can well imagine that that if you're in that situation, there might be an amount of guilt when you inject time where you want to inject time, because you're not caring at that particular moment or whatever. Of course, we've all got lives to lead, but those feelings of guilt that we might have are really very real, and their resistance points to our own happiness.
Yeah, they are. And often it's like, you have this slice of time, don't you? And so when you've got so many things to do, and then it's like, well, what am I doing in this slice of time? And it just becomes quite overwhelming, because then you think, do I do this with my partner? Do I do this with my children? Do I do this for my parents? Do I do this, with my business? Do I do this with my clients? It's like, which one am I doing? And it really is a juggling act. And there is something about, if you're not sort of serving other people and you're serving yourself, at times it can feel like you're being selfish. And that's probably one of the biggest kind of misconceptions, is that, a lot of women do believe that if they're taking care of themselves, they're being selfish, and then they feel guilty. But actually, the reality is that if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of others.
That's so true. It's so true, because it's very wearing being a carer. It's hard work, and often it's pretty thankless work as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and it can feel like it's every day feels like Groundhog Day, because it's, you're doing the same thing again and again and again. And also, sometimes there is this real loss of identity, because you no longer feel like you're the daughter, because you're not having a daughter-mother relationship, you're having a carer-mother relationship. And that can be quite, there's so many emotions involved with that, because you want to be treated as a daughter, but you're being treated like a carer. And that's quite a challenge. That's quite challenging as well. And you've got to then somehow sort of find peace in that, and acceptance in that. And that's not always easy.
Do you feel you found acceptance in that role when you were performing it yourself, Daksha?
Do you know what? I have to be honest and say that when I was actually in that role, there were moments when I found that peace and found that acceptance.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times it was quite stressful. And hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful thing. And, there's a lot of, I know a lot of people who are carers, and after the event, you can impart a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. But I know what it's like, that when you're in it, it's like when you're in the jar, you really can't read the label. And so for me, that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because at the time when I was in that role, I didn't have access to a lot of the information, a lot of the knowledge, and a lot of the resources and the support. And some of that is about sometimes it's just about reaching out to somebody, having a quick conversation, knowing that somebody's listened to you, not necessarily because you're seeking answers, but just an opportunity to just say, do you know what? I'm just having a really crappy day today. This is how I feel. And if you want to cry, you cry. But it's just knowing that somebody's there, somebody's listening to you. And, it doesn't always change the circumstances, but it does lighten the load when you can just talk about it.
Yeah, I think so. And I'd like to say to all my listeners who perhaps have a sibling or a wife who's performing this role, that I'd love you to come out of this show with a sense of gratitude for all the hard work that they're doing as carers, and a greater appreciation of the stress that can put them under.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe a referral to Daksha might be a really nice thing, might be the nicest thing you can possibly do for them. So how would people get in contact? Shall I is LinkedIn, is that the best way of?
Yeah, so I do tend to hang out more on LinkedIn, and if anybody wants to reach out to me and talk to me, absolutely connect with me on LinkedIn. As I say, I'm really passionate. I really feel that it's so important, that, whether you're a carer or whether you're, just self-employed and you're trying to just follow, your heart and build your business, or whether you're in middle management. I think I really resonate with women who are in those positions. I guess it's because I've been through it. And I really resonate with being in those different roles. And so I know what it can be like when you're sort of juggling all those different elements.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And I think sometimes we want to think that, we're superhuman and that we can handle it all. And we don't want to speak out about it because we think it's a sign of weakness. And, often we kind of look out and we see everybody else who are sort of doing similar things, and it seems like they're handling it all. And you think, well, they seem to have it all sorted. I haven't got my stuff together. But the reality is very different, because you really don't know what it's like for somebody until you sort of step into their situation. And every situation is unique and it's individual.
Yeah. I see that. And it's a really precious gift that you're involved in giving right now. Once you've been working with a client, can you give my audience a sense of how you will lift them to clarity, confidence, and courage?
Yeah. So, for me, part of my pivotal moments in terms of, my own journey was really about discovering who you really are. I got to a point where it was like, who is Daksha? Because all my life, most of the things that I'd done because it was to please my parents or to fulfill some societal expectations, So for me, I think having that clarity about who you are, and what your strengths are, what your gifts are, what your talents are, and just really taking some time to acknowledge just that is really important. So I think, I always say that the longest relationship that you're ever going to have is the one that you have with yourself. And so it's really important to take some time out to figure out, who are you, what makes you tick, why do you do the things that you do? So getting that clarity. And I think once you start building up that clarity, you just have this inner sense of self-assuredness that, I am good enough, I am worthy, I do deserve things in life, or, to be in certain, be, do, and have things in life. So it is about that. And then, once you start to build that inner confidence, that's really where that confidence comes from, that self-assuredness, and knowing that it's coming from within. And that confidence also to know that you can handle challenges in life. It's a confidence to know that you are a resilient person. We all have a certain level of resilience already. And so it's about how do we kind of keep building on that inner resilience. And so it's building on that inner resilience. And then that courage really comes from knowing that you actually have all the tools that you need to be the person that you want to be. And often it's here. It's about
I was just about to say, it's very, whatever your condition, whether it be you're wearing a type 2 diabetes condition, whether you're wearing a stressed and burnt out condition, moving forward is all about envisaging where you want to be, first of all. So it all starts from here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people shouldn't be shy. We as coaches, can help facilitate and bring out this rich array of resources that you already have.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a client, and it's It's absolutely I find some clients coming to me with a sense of almost shame that they should reach out and ask for help.
Exactly.
And it's absolutely not that at all. It's not a vulnerability. It's not
No.
it's not a disbenefit. It's a I think it's a transition. It's an ability to transition from where you are to where you always should be.
Yeah. And where I suppose for me, being involved in this work, I talk about my pivotal moments, but the pivotal moments have really been where I have heard somebody speak or read something or listened to something where they've been talking about that actually it's an inside out job, and that we actually have so much more power and control over our lives than we believe we actually do have. And so for me, a bit like you, Stephen, when I'm sure the work that you do with your clients, it's really about getting people to, first of all, get that awareness, get them to start believing that actually they can do this, but then providing them the tools so that they can do it quicker.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Now, forgive me, I've not got on screen now your website, but you have a website. Is that a good place also for people to go and look for initial resources to help them? Help them? I think you're having it redeveloped, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So at the moment, it's being refreshed.
Okay.
And so that's why I think it's better that people just connect with me on LinkedIn, or and on LinkedIn you can then sort of put in an appointment to have a call with me as well. I'd be more than happy to have that call and have that chat.
Great. Well, what I'll do in the show notes, I'll put your the link to your calendar. So if people want to take that first step and reach out to you, it's very easy. They can just click that link.
Perfect.
Right in the show notes. Yeah. So, Daksha, that's been really enlightening for me. I think it's just so important that people do look for the right support and the right help for where they are right now, because they're not alone. And that sense of aloneness is really what you in your field and me and myself in my field, we're here to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because when it happens to you, it's easy to think you're the only one in the world who's going through this, and that there's no help. You just have to hunker down and get on with it. But there is help, and you can access that help, to get you to a healthier place.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Stephen. When you're coaching one-to-one, sometimes people haven't always had the experience of coaching, so they're not always sure what it is. But, the feedback, and I'm sure you get the same feedback as well, is that, the feedback I always get is, what you've done is you've held a safe space for me so that I can just speak my truth, be honest, be vulnerable, but know that there's no judgment here.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Daksha Patel, thank you very much indeed. We will have you back on the show again because you're just such a good guest.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephen.
I'm not sure when it will be, but you will come back. For the moment, I've left Daksha's information on the screen. Have a look at the notes underneath. You'll find the Calendly link that Daksha's just talked to us about. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please leave me some feedback in the comments, and I hope to see you again next week. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen. Bye.